Sounds pretty epic.
Hello, and welcome to the Warrior Arts Renaissance Show, where you give us hard questions and we give you solid answers. I'm your host, Dr. Philip Payne. My co-hosts at large are Shaoshi Raymond Pridgeon, Master Josh Slater, Master Don Holmes, Master Eric Allfield, and Master Tom Meredith. The Warrior Arts Renaissance Show is a production of Payne Unlimited LLC, and any proceeds will go to support the Ezra Foundation in its ongoing effort to end human trafficking worldwide. With that said, grab you a drink and pull up a chair to the table of the masters. Lend us your ear.
Okay. How you answered that last question actually ends up rolling into the next question. And I know that you before in a general overview of it. But I have a kind of more specific question on that topic.
Okay.
So I realize that even as an instructor, I still need to learn and better myself. And I've always learned martial arts in person, but now that I'm teaching from my instructor, I am to be via online, and because of that, I'm being presented walls. I guess is a good way to say it, on my growth and understanding of things. How, because all of you, specifically, and the other instructors and masters on the show, started your martial arts career back when the online services that we have now weren't much of a thing, if at all. So how have you, over the years, adapted yourself better to learn with the resources, the new ways we have to learn?
Well, for starters, Jacob, two of us on this show, at least two of us, started our careers before the internet was invented. When I say careers, I mean started our training. I think Shaoshi started in 71, I think he said, on a show a few weeks back. And I started in 87. And the concept of the internet was just, I mean, it was science fiction at the time, basically. The idea that you would train with a master thousands of miles away through, uh, just train digitally like that was not even dreamed of. So it was a big shock when I started seeing people teach online. And to be honest with you, I was very much against it for a long time because I felt like, how can you really test somebody on their skills watching them on a screen? Because so much could be faked. So much could be done halfway and called good. I still feel that way about a lot of things, but I feel like there are some things that you can learn, a lot of fundamental things that you can learn, or corrective things that you can learn online on like viewing a video. Shaoshi actually sends me Chinal training videos, and sometimes they're only like 2 to 5 minutes long, but he's correcting something that he's seen me do, and he wants me to do it a little different way, or he wants to give me a different insight to a movement. That works really well. I guess it's kind of like I think I saw maybe like when as a writer we talk about what we call the marathon of the middle. You can be really things can work really well at the beginning and the end of a story or a book or of whatever kind, but in the middle, people get lost. Sometimes even the writer gets lost. And I think we have to be careful of that when we're doing online training or distance training, because I can teach you a form. I can teach you proper stance, proper posture, the right way to make a fist in a certain kata, things like that can be taught and learned by video. Um, Very, very specific, minute differences in hand formations and things like that can be taught by video to advanced students. But in the middle, you've got those students who are learning things like how to know when the blood choke is actually working, and you can't do that unless you're hands-on with the individual. So I would encourage you, learn everything you can from every source you can, but be careful what you're trying to learn through that distance mechanism or that distance means, and make sure it's not things that you have to be able to feel the other person, like chokes, like locks, do you understand what I'm saying? Um, Once you know, let's talk about nerve attack. Once you know what it feels like when you're on that nerve, that's great. And you can work that into and say, oh, okay, I know what it's like to hit the middle Freeman nerve, and I know what a person's body is going to do. But you have to have actually hit the middle Freeman nerve on somebody a bunch of times to be able to do that. I would not teach you, if you had never done it before, I would not teach you to attack the middle Freeman nerve and to give the specifics of it on a teaching video. I would teach you the body posture. I would teach you the entering and passing movement. I would teach you the general gross motor skills of it. But when it comes down to actually knowing that you've got that technique right, you need to be with your instructor for that. That's just my opinion, and I'm sure you could find 100 people out there who would say I'm wrong. But I think there comes down to, I can test you on your form. I can test you on did you do whatever physical movement or whatever you were supposed to do. What is your knowledge level? I can test all of that on a video. I can't know whether or not you really hit the point, really got the artery, really made that joint, come to that point where he thought it was going to dislocate, so he gave up, unless I'm right there with you.
I don't think I could have properly learned a like 3-directional wrist lock, or basic wrist lock through a video. So yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Now that you know it, I can show you on a video and say, do this wrist lock and follow it up with this strike. And if you know that lock and that strike, you can put it together. But you have to know those things and understand actually have experiential knowledge of those things before they can make sense to you to put them together.
Okay. Well, that helps. It helps me figure out how to better use the resources. Appreciate it.
Well, since we're talking about distance learning resources, what specific ones are you looking at?
Like more FMA. Fine.
Okay.
The videos that you sent me, more specifically, I've always learned forms in person and practiced them on myself, by myself, or with the help of an instructor above me. And I've always been tested on such forms in person. And now with distance learning, and I guess I should word this question for those who are having to distance learn because of the pandemic that's going on. Well, but for me, it's just because of distance, California to my home state. It's because I can't see every angle of the technique through a video, it is more difficult to understand it.
Right. One thing that I've found that helps overcome that issue is if I give you a very general, very generic video, you can learn everything you can from that, and then call me or email me or whatever Facebook me, whatever you want to do, and tell me, hey, I'm having trouble understanding this, and then I can either shoot you another video or we can live stream. And I can show you. I've done that for other students. They said, okay, I'm watching this jujitsu training video, and I'm not understanding. Between minutes 5 and 7, you're saying this, but I'm not understanding. I can't see what's going on the other side. What am I missing? And then I can get them on live through Facebook, video chat or whatever, and I can demonstrate it with them watching it, or I can shoot them a video from the other angle. So there is that option. Now, a lot of programs you won't get that because what they sell you is this video set, and if you can't learn from it, too bad. The better programs out there, Mark Klein has shot me a video, like a 2-minute video before to basically show me what I was doing wrong. I know there are other instructors out there who would do that. I talked a while ago about Xiaoxi has done things like that. I do things like that. Some of the people out there doing instructional videos aren't interested in doing that. So be careful who you pick to learn from by distance training, because you may be getting exactly what you pay for, and you may be getting more, if that makes any sense.
Topic of distance learning. How do you? Okay, you came of age in the martial arts at what time? What era?
What do you mean by coming of age?
Like when you became a full-fledged instructor, you opened your own school.
I was licensed to teach private lessons in 1995. I was still considered an assistant instructor, but I was allowed to teach private lessons because of the situation I was in. My teacher made an allowance for that. In 98, I believe it was 97 or 98, I became a full instructor.
All right, so on that topic, so a few years before the turn of the century, and that was a great time to come of age and start your own school and everything. For my generation of young instructors, I guess I can speak my own personal experience. I became a full-fledged instructor in late September, early October of last year, 2019. And now we're all of us instructors, every era, we're dealing with this pandemic. How do you think it's going to affect the future of martial arts overall?
Are you referring to the way it's taught, or I guess I'm not following your question?
More about how it's going to be taught, because your generation, the privilege of having dojos and full-fledged fronts, basically. I guess not really a storefront, but like a dojo front.
Right.
The street. This dojo is open business, and then since the 80s, I would say probably the prime time of American martial arts. Since then, it's the amount of students seeking out teachers in the martial arts have dwindled drastically. It's gone more to the olden days of even before the 80s or before it actually became mainstream in America, to where now it's almost always private lessons for a lot of instructors, more personal one-on-one teaching throughout the last a couple of decades. And now, the start of this decade has us not just one-on-one, more personal lessons, it's business learning. So, how do you think going forward it's going to affect the future of martial arts?
Well, I think there's multiple sides to that. As far as the business of martial arts, we're going to have to be a lot more creative in how we deliver the goods, so to speak, or our businesses are going to die. And it's already happening. Schools all over the country are already talking about not being able to open up again because they've missed rent too many times because they were paycheck to paycheck, so to speak, keeping their school open. I was just recently talking to a good friend of mine. He's not here local, but he's in another state that he's in that predicament. He's had and he teaches really good quality martial arts. I mean, I would, if you said, should I go train with this guy? I'd say yes. Take up the opportunity. But he was always making enough to keep his school open, and that was about it. And now he's closing his school permanently from the sound of it. I think for the business of the martial arts, COVID-19 is going to be really bad. I think for the quality of martial arts, I think it could actually be really good. Because well, not so much the survival of the fittest. I guess that's kind of part of it. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I mean, if you think about it, my school has almost always been attached to our home. Okay, you've made the comment before. You couldn't help but learn martial arts. You grew up. Your master instructor lived in your house. Okay, training happened every day, whether you were in the dojo or not. Were learning something. So much has been gained for the martial arts by having it go public and be an industry, and yet so much has been lost because there's been, unfortunately, so much sellout. And I've prided myself saying that I'll never sell out, and yet as well as I do that I've made some decisions because it was good business. Not to sell out, in my opinion, not ever to sell out the quality of what I teach, but I've tolerated certain things from certain students over the years that if I wasn't trying to run a business, I would have dismissed them a lot sooner, or told them not to come back until they changed their attitude. With COVID-19, one of the things that I see happening is instructors are either only teaching their families right now, or they're teaching a very, very select few students who they know are extremely dedicated. And those students are dedicated enough that they are literally risking their lives to come to class. It may be the best thing that has ever happened to the martial arts in my lifetime. And maybe somebody will probably get in the comments and tell me how that's a horrible way to look at it, and they're welcome to do that. But I think for the quality of American martial arts, this has actually been a good thing.
So it's more about quality. I mean, the mainstream martial arts is going farther away from quantity to quality now. It's going back to quality. That's what you're.
Well, what I'm saying is, with COVID and so many schools having to shut down, or at least shut down temporarily, all schools have pretty much had to do that. Um, the Financially, it's always better to have a large class. For the sake of preserving the very best quality and the highest level of knowledge, it's always best to have a very small, intimate class. Um, if I'm teaching 30 people, half of them don't want to know the super high level stuff. And half of those who do aren't going to put in the time and the effort that's really needed to get it. And of those who are willing to do that, there's probably half of those that I question that morally, ethically, how are they going to use it? Okay, so the what's best economically for the business of a school is almost never going to be what's best for the long-term preservation of the true art. Okay, and it's hard to find a balance when you're running a formal school, like a formal, a commercial school. And right now, none of us have to worry about that. You know what I'm saying? The students we have, if they're walking in our doors or they're taking the time to log on and ask questions and what have you, tend to be the ones who, number one, really want to put in the effort, and number two, probably want it for the right reasons. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this podcast, folks. Be sure to tune in next time where we will resume this conversation right where we left off. Until then, keep kicking, and remember to support our sponsor, the Ezra Foundation, in its ongoing effort to end human trafficking worldwide.
Sounds pretty epic.